We've got the Mercedes Benz EQE sedan, and it's all electric.
Mercedes Benz will be all electric, so let's jump into the future. Whoa, easy now.
Oh my gosh, this 500. Wow,
there goes
the torque.
There goes my toast again. All right, this is the higher performance version of the EQE. We're going to get into it. What is under the floor of this thing?
This has dual electric motors with a 90.6 kilowatt hour battery, 418 kilometers, 260 miles of range, a combined 402 horsepower and 633 pound-feet of torque. It goes 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 4.7 seconds and 0 to 60 in 4.5.
There are some options for this EQE, like the 350 4MATIC with 288 horsepower and 564 pound-feet of torque. It has 418 kilometers or 260 miles of range. Of course, there's a higher performance model than this called the AMG EQE 4MATIC with 617 horsepower, 701 pound-feet of torque, 362 kilometers, 225 miles of range, and both run on a 90.6 kilowatt-hour battery.
In the US, you've got one more. There's also the 350 plus rear-wheel drive model with 288 horsepower and 417 pound-feet of torque. It has 305 miles of range. We're going to be focusing on the EQE 500 in our review.
Now, as Andrea mentioned, we're focusing on this 500 version. So let's get into what do you get with it?
The 500 model comes with a 12.3-inch digital driver display, a 12.8-inch OLED touchscreen, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, wireless charger, a 360 camera, the Burmester 3D surround system, heated power front seats with memory, leather upholstery, a panoramic sunroof, heated steering wheel, and foot-activated trunk release. In the US, a heated steering wheel is not standard, but 10-degree rear axle steering is.
By now you know the shtick. Andrea, what do we have to put it in?
Gotta put it in S for subscribe, and if you can hit that notification bell, you'll be notified when all of our reviews drop, and then you can watch them.
We do this, the couple car review, twice a week. The first one drops on Wednesday.
We put another one out on Saturday.
So make sure you like and subscribe, but also follow along on Instagram to find out what's going on behind the scenes. It's Motormouth_Andrea. For me, it's Motormouth_Auto, and the links are below the like button. We've driven the EQS sedan, the EQS SUV, and now we're in the EQE sedan, so that's one size smaller. How are you enjoying this?
I actually think that the way it handles is like a typical EV. Obviously, you saw from the start, it's got that instant acceleration, that snap, that torque. I mean, it doesn't really matter what EV you get, you always get that same feeling.
My biggest takeaway between the other EQ models that we drove and this is the brakes on this one actually are better. We found the initial Mercedes electric vehicle brakes really mushy and not precise and predictable. This one is better. It's not perfect, but it is better.
Mercedes-Benz says that they made a real effort to reduce wind noise in the cabin. It's quite quiet.
Oh, yeah.
And then also the comfort level of the drive and the stable handling. I find the suspension quite firm in this model, but there are options to get airmatic suspension. There's an adaptive damping system. There's also 4.5 rear axle steering along with 10-degree rear axle steering.
And we do have the active rear steering on this one, and it does make it fabulous for maneuvering. The one thing I'll say though, Andrea, as the vehicles get smaller, so there's the EQS, that's their S-Class version of an electrified version. This is the E-Class version. It is definitely more of a driver's car, and the suspension is a little bit firmer. We're still rolling, on winter tires, and it's still very quiet, and it's what you want in a Mercedes-Benz. You want it to be quiet and polished and luxurious, and they have that end of the market cornered.
I think overall it handles quite well.
So I'm not loving the overall look of the EQ models. I think that they have a bit of an egg shape. I think this one is better than the EQS, but they all have a similar kind of vibe.
I'm not a huge fan of the looks of the EQS. It has that jelly bean profile. I think it looks okay straight on and from the back. This one looks better. It seems like it's more balanced profile-wise for sure, but you still have those short overhangs that you see on all EQ models. This comes standard with LED headlights, available digital LED headlights, which we have on our test model, LED taillights, standard 19-inch wheels, and a tire repair kit.
I was surprised when we got this that they didn't order it with the Hyperscreen, because all the models we've driven have always been with the Hyperscreen, and it is really a showstopper. And now that I've driven this one and the Hyperscreen, I prefer the Hyperscreen for one reason. The placement of the driver information screen behind the steering wheel is not set up perfectly. I can't see the top of it because of where I need my steering wheel to be.
Well, I'm finding that the steering wheel is too big. Everything just feels a little bit cluttered in here for me. I agree with Zach on the digital driver display. It's a 12.3 inch. I think it needs to sit further back. I also like the Hyperscreen because it is more streamlined, kind of a slick look, and everything sits back a little bit. It's not that I need the 12.3 inch passenger screen that's on the Hyperscreen, but I just feel like the layout is better than this.
But you know what? Then you get into the materials, and Mercedes Benz can do spectacular interiors. This one I would say is okay. You know, the materials are fine in some areas, but then you've got the whole center console here has got the shiny hard plastic you could get in basic cars.
Yes.
The bottom parts of the door are not that soft material that they used to have for decades, and they've abandoned some of that stuff. It's cheapened in some ways.
Yeah, it's really too bad. I was surprised actually by the storage on the door, that it's hard plastic. At the center console, it is soft touch materials, but once again, we've got that high gloss black here. I think that they could do a better job of eliminating that. What I do like is the way that the screen is laid out here. It's easy to access. It doesn't sit too far back. So I would say that the center console is quite well organized. Yeah. And also the storage in the door pockets, it's quite wide, and this center console storage is very deep.
Yeah, so it goes down to there. That's how
pretty
much space you
good.
get.
We're going to get into the comfort level of the seats in questions, coffee and cars. There's a good question there.
All right, so what about trims? Like we talked at the very beginning about all of the different variations of the EQE. Are there packages for this?
In the US, there's 3 different trims, and then of course you can add a la carte items to those trims. For example, the base trim doesn't come with a heated steering wheel, so you have to add that, which is quite shocking for the price point.
It's a head scratcher. Like this on a car that's this expensive and you got to pay for heat. It just seems silly.
Now in Canada, we've got the one trim, and then you can add a la carte items, you can add packages. This model in particular has the Pinnacle package, so it's got some extra active driving assist features like active blind spot monitoring. It also has a head-up display and video augmentation. It has more features in that package. I won't get into all of the details, but you can really make this Mercedes-Benz your own. You can get this Napa leather interior that we have with space gray, and also different trim colors. We've got a nice gray wood, but you can choose other options as well.
So a couple of things about this roof. It does open, and it has a power shade with a swipe of a button. You can get that going. All right, I'm going to show you now me getting in the back seat. And as big as this vehicle is, it's really quite interesting, the shape and the design of the rear seat. We're going to get more into this in questions, coffee, and cars. How does it stack up?
Comparing the EQE sedan to competitors like the Tesla Model S and the electrified G80 from Genesis, it offers 41.7 inches of front row legroom, which is less than these 2 competitors. Second row legroom at 38.2 inches is great, offering 3 inches more space to stretch out in compared to the G80 and the Model S.
The trunk is power operated, which is really nice in a sedan. You have a very useful cargo space, and there are quick releases for the seat back, so you can fold down the back seat and get even more space.
Cargo space falls short to these competitors. Both the Model S and the G80 have more space. This is coming in at 15.2 cubic feet.
More about the interior. Let's get into it.
Time now for questions, coffee, and cars.
Your questions from Instagram.
Not knowing much about EVs, how much is range affected by use of air, heater, and headlights? Well, everything affects range. That's the thing about electric vehicles.
Got to get the energy from somewhere, right? So it comes from the big battery. The good thing is some of the systems are fairly efficient. But yeah, you'll notice when you put on the air conditioner or the heater on max, the range drops, right?
Yeah, and it depends how cold it is outside, how hot it is outside. We were on a drive event for a plug-in hybrid, and there was a competition. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Where at the end of the drive route,
Yeah.
who had the most range? Well, Zach and I, it was snowing out. We've got the heat on. We've
The
got
bum
our heat,
warmers on.
everything. Well, the person who won went without heat, without heated seats, nothing. I said, yeah, but that's not how you live. He says, I
He
just wanted to win.
He got the prize. I don't know, it was some trinket.
It was.
We didn't get a trinket. Actually, we did. We went for something else. We got a best picture, maybe, something like that.
I don't, yeah, maybe.
I think it was. We
Yeah,
went
I think
for
we got
something else.
best picture. Those seats look amazing. How comfortable are they?
Well, which seats are you talking about? Are you talking about the front seats or the back seats? Because the front seats, yeah, they're good. The back seats are weird.
Front seats are comfortable. Back seat, as it is in typical EVs, the floor sits a little bit higher. For me, when I sit back there, and I think Zach feels the same way, the bottom of the seat is super cushioned. It looks amazing, doesn't it, from the pictures and the video?
But the pitch is like this.
Yeah.
So your hips are low and your knees are high.
And also my calves are right at that point where there is all that cushion, but it's not comfortable. I don't know if I would like it on a long trip.
Yeah, I think if you're taking some friends and you're going to the movies and you're driving for 15, 20 minutes, they won't care. But if you're sitting back there for 2-3 hours, you won't be able to stretch your legs out.
No.
It's kind of an odd setup.
And the seats don't recline.
No.
So the pitch isn't as great, but it's better than the EQS sedan.
So we told Mercedes Benz at a EQE SUV event that we were at in Colorado last fall.
Yeah.
We told them the big issue you have with these sedans is the rear seats, and they go, yeah, we know, yeah. So we'll see if they do anything.
So they know. I'm sure the sunroof helps keep the cabin airy, but does this EQE seem claustrophobic with such a high waistline and short windows? I guess it's reminiscent of the CLS. Look, I don't find that it's claustrophobic in here at all. I do find that this is a bit high. It's the rear seat with the slope of the roof that you're going to have to be really careful with for headroom.
It's funny, I didn't know the questions. I don't know the questions before we show up. Andrea springs them on me. So
Sometimes I tell them.
the belt line is high. The front window is narrow. The rear window is really quite shallow.
Yeah.
So this whole part is sitting up quite hard. The thing that was weird to me, Andrea, we talked about it earlier, without having the hyper screen, you've got this big slab panel.
Yeah.
This, I think it's aluminum on the dash. I don't know. It's nice looking. I'm not sure if it's the best thought out interior.
We don't really love the layout. I don't mind this screen at the center console, but I don't like the digital driver display. It's too close to the driver. I guess I would rather just have the hyper screen in here.
And now it's time for our hot topic. What's this one, Andrea?
Wouldn't it be nice if the base models of these EVs got better range? Couple hundred miles makes it tough when you live in rural areas. Just saying.
Well, this is going to be a problem as car makers are moving to all EV. People that live in faraway rural areas, like in northern Canada, for example, are they going to be stuck with vehicles without infrastructure to charge them? And they're just going to keep holding on to their older gas and diesel cars probably for longer.
I actually think that this has some great range, 418 kilometers, 260 miles, even on that base model. I think that most people, that range is just fine. I mean, you're not even going to have to charge it every day. The research shows that most do 42 miles or around 64 kilometers of EV range daily. So I don't think that's a problem, but not in a rural area.
That's the question.
That is it.
If I live out in the hinterland, are EVs at a cost that people can afford?
I don't think so.
I don't know.
No, I think that's going to be pretty tough, especially if you don't have a charger available along the way. So not only do we have to have the charging infrastructure be better in those areas, they have to work when you stop at them. And maybe for those people, cars have to have more range.
Well, speaking about range and charging and all of that, let's get into it with our vital stats.
Let's start with pricing. We'll do Canada first and then we'll move on to the US. The 500 starts at $95,000. Prices tested almost $120,000. In the US, the premium 500 starts at $85,900.
This EQE sedan comes with a 9.6 kilowatt onboard charger. With a level 2 charger, it'll go from 10 to 100% in 10.5 hours. And with a DC fast charger with speeds up to 170 kilowatts, it'll go from 10 to 80% in 32 minutes. The warranty is 4 years, 80,000 kilometers, or 50,000 miles. In the United States, complimentary maintenance is included for 2 years. So you like the idea of a large, luxurious sedan. What else can you buy?
For your consideration, 4 vehicles for you to consider.
Up first is the Tesla Model S with 670 horsepower and 652 kilometers, 405 miles of range. It has a starting price of $122,000.
The Lucid Air Touring with 620 horsepower, 653 kilometers, or 405 miles, and a starting price of $146,000.
The Audi e-tron GT Quattro with 522 horsepower and 383 kilometers, 236 miles of range. It has a starting price around $134,000.
The Genesis G80 with 365 horsepower and 454 kilometers, 282 miles of range, and a starting price of $105,000.
So there are 4 luxury electric sedans for you to consider.
Lightning round. 2 things we like, 2 things we like to see improved.
The performance is so good with this model.
For EV lovers, I like the fact they have a full onslaught of new EVs.
What I don't like is the high gloss black center console and the plastic at the bottom of the doors.
To the person that asked the question, you're right. Outward visibility isn't fantastic.
Well, Mercedes Benz certainly provides a luxury experience with this EV.
Are you ready to go all EV? Let us know.